Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show, where sometimes I talk about concerts. I don't get to go to a lot of concerts. I've got 2 kids, a full-time job, and for the last 9 months, I've been accompanying my wife in her pregnancy. So it's pretty funny because her due date is any time, and we knew it would be any time when we bought tickets to see Andrew Bird last night at the Beak and Skiff Apple Orchards in Lafayette, New York. I'll talk more about the venue in a second. And it was funny, because we bought these tickets and it was just sort of like, this is stupid. But well, best case scenario, we won't be able to go because we'll have a new baby. Worst case scenario, you'll be miserable and tired and super pregnant, but at least you'll get to see Andrew Bird. So obviously we got to go. Now, first of all, this video is going to be a concert review, but of the 25 songs, I'm actually only going to be talking about like 8 of them. I'll explain to you why in a second. I am going to talk a lot about the venue and about the experience. I find that people enjoy hearing stories about concert going from different perspectives. I think there should be more of that online, actually. Just more people just sort of sharing the funny things that happened. I tell a very funny story in my Brian Wilson review. My Playboi Carti review is my most successful video. So I'm not sure how much overlap there's going to be between seeing Playboi Carti and seeing Andrew Bird, but let's find out. So on the way to the concert, it's like an hour and a half away. Lafayette, named after the great French general, who is the reason that we were able to beat the British in the Revolutionary War. Lafayette was like a huge megastar, absolute megastar all the way in America and especially in New York. Anyway, so we go there, and on the way to the concert, my wife insists on listening to Andrew Bird's new album. So just tell me in the comments, is that forbidden or is that acceptable? I don't think you should listen to the artist you're going to see the day of or the day after, and I don't think you should wear any merch of that artist. But maybe I'm just a purist. So we're driving and we're going on Route 20. It's this beautiful place. We arrive at this venue, and it's like the venue was made for Andrew Bird's music. Andrew Bird's music is gorgeous. It comes from a place of privilege, right? Like his middle name is Wegman, and we actually drove by a Wegmans and a Wegman Street. I don't know if he's related to those Wegmans. But, he's from a very fancy part of Chicago, a suburb of Chicago, and he sort of represents like what can happen when artists are given lots of space and freedom, and he's able to really create great work. Right? So I don't think of that as disparaging. I think it's great, because never forget, every artist that you appreciate, actor, musician, who was born rich and became an artist, did that instead of becoming an investment banker, did that instead of just sitting on their wealth and doubling and tripling and becoming landlords. So I'm all for it. But still, it does kind of color his music. The crowd there was very kind of hippie, but also very sort of people who are contented in life, because his music makes you feel contented in life. Even though he touches on a lot of societal themes, his music is very warm and very inviting. And here we are at this venue. It's the largest sky you've ever seen. I mean, I've been to a lot of outdoor venues, Shoreline and Great Woods and Berkeley and Hollywood Bowl, all those places. But like it was like Montana. Like you could see all around, but all around, instead of nothing, there were just these hills with all these apples. And it's actually really cool, because when you live in Western New York, we don't have a lot of agriculture up here, or at least not a lot of like very thriving agriculture. There's a lot of agriculture. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But the main thing that we make is apples, as far as fruit goes, because we can't like grow oranges, we can't grow bananas in New York. So it is cool to have this sort of very situated place here, and got some good food. Like, they had good burgers and pulled pork sandwiches. Obviously, I didn't drink because I'm there with my pregnant wife. I don't really drink anyway. It's a cool place because and this is a very underrated thing, but a staff, like the quality of the staff at any concert actually really makes a huge difference to how you experience it. So when we pulled in, the people who were directing parking were totally on it. They were like, jip, 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 jip. They got me right in. Usually it's like some dude on his phone, and he's like going like this, like forward and sideways at the same time, and you don't know where to drive. So it was just great. We go in, and if you've ever walked with somebody who's in the very last stages of pregnancy, you just know that it's just a different time scale. You just walk super slowly. So I'm sitting there, and you have to bring your own chairs. So we have these folding chairs, because I had to bring comfortable chairs. Can't bring camping chairs because she's got to be comfortable, So I got the two folding chairs under my arm. We brought in a Joan Didion book, just kind of as a laugh. Just thought, why not have that to read, because he's such a big Joan Didion fan. And we find this place to sit kind of off to the side of the stage. And I just plop down my wife, set it up, and then I kind of go. I get merch. You see the poster behind me. I got this right here, which is the coolest tour exclusive merch I've ever gotten. Not because of this, but because inside of this was signed vinyl, but was signed vinyl with an extra album. It's like they have a whole extra album of instrumental music, which is really quite nice. It's a good signature up there. Really, really quite quality thing. Get the food, bring it back, and at this point, the co-headliner played. Now this is going to be an interesting character in this story. I hate to say it, but it's kind of a villain. Iron and Wine. Now listen, if you are an Iron and Wine fan, I get it. His songwriting is beautiful. His singing, guitar playing, thematically, he's wonderful. Iron and Wine is great. But he's one of the most obnoxious performers I have ever seen. I just cannot even believe how obnoxious he was. This is why his music is heartfelt and stirring and meaningful. And the entire time, he is consciously acting like he's too cool for the music that he's playing. He's constantly undercutting everything with jokes. He's made all these jokes. He's sitting there playing. It's like, oh, the apples. You guys eat a lot of apples? Apple sauce, apple cider, cider. Yeah, cider. It reminded me a lot of a bad stand-up comedian, like Tim Heidecker's performance of his satirical performance of a bad, Brussels sprouts. No, not Brussels sprouts. That kind of humor. But it's like he undercuts his own music. He was singing a song and he has these very meaningful lyrics, and then he'll just throw in a yuck in the middle there. It's more important for him to get laughs out of his audience and for his audience to feel what he's singing. And then he sets up this other song, and he talks about all the people who were born in Syracuse, because this happened near Syracuse, and he ends up leading on to Richard Gere. And if you see somebody who's bad at comedy and you know the word Richard Gere is mentioned, you know what's coming. And he literally said, oh, I thought I noticed that there were no gerbils around here. That's not, you had all day to think of this joke. You know you were going to tell this joke. This wasn't an improvised joke. And it's just not funny. And it whatever experience I could have had with his music, because I don't know his music very well at all, was just totally undone by this weird Tim Heidecker bargain basement stand-up comedian act that he threw into his music. It was very unpleasant. At the very end of his set, I went to the car, and this is how good of a venue it is. I walked by the security people. I was like, you remember my wife, right? She was the super pregnant one. She needs a pillow, which was true. Can I go to the car? And they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to be those guys. You go get a pillow for your pregnant wife. That's what kind of venue it is. So I get it. I come back. I also brought an extra sweatshirt. Got her all set. So she's actually comfortable. Because when you're around somebody who's at that stage, the only thing you can think about is their comfort. And if you're thinking about anything else, you're just kind of a jerk. So, I got the pillow, got this. I'm doing a whole foot rub thing, and just everything's all set. Everything's quite nice. We're just sitting there. The sun is set. The moon is rising. Everything's beautiful. And Andrew Bird starts. At this point, I wasn't even facing the stage. I was allowing myself to be there to make sure my wife is comfortable with her feet on my lap, little foot rub, all that stuff, right? Just the sweetest family thing you've ever seen. And he finally starts playing. Andrew Bird, the person who he came to see, started playing. And I had no idea how good he was going to be in concert. I just had none. I was a little afraid that he would be kind of like Iron and Wine, that he would be a little jokey, a little too self-deprecating, a little too cute, a little too precious, but not at all. He takes his talent seriously, and he just blows you away with his talent. He starts off with this instrumental opening that's like exciting and sort of unreal, kind of like winding us up and getting ready, and then leads into the song Make a Picture off of his new album. And what's great here is my favorite part of the album. While we were driving, to the concert, this was the song I realized I wanted to hear the most, because there's this little part where it's ba ba na 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 na. He does this little like scrape on the violin, and he did it the first time, and then never again. And it made me realize this is going to be a good show, because they are not at all trying to recreate the album. And to see Andrew Bird sing along with his melody while playing the violin. The thing about Andrew Bird is that he does so many things that other people don't do. And then he does them together. Like nobody, as far as I know, has successfully been a singer-songwriter primarily on a violin as successfully as he is. You can tell me about other people. But I've never heard it. It might be out there. You feel free to tell me. You correct me. I don't know everything, obviously. But he does that. And he does it so well because he can play it like a guitar, and he can play it like a violin. And when he plays like a violin, he can bow or he can pluck. And he can sing while playing violin so well. And then he adds the whistling on top of the whole thing, the ability to whistle, which very few people are able to do. Meanwhile, the thing I was totally not expecting is he's a rock star. He acts like a rock star. He has that kind of charisma. He has that sort of effortless charisma of a rock star, which I didn't expect at all, especially from somebody whose music is so well suited for a cheese tasting. You know what I mean? Next up is the song Lone Didion. I was excited, happy I brought my Joan Didion book. And here was like more rock than I was expecting. It really felt like a rock song, and the way they changed it was beautiful. They made it more emotional. The bass player had really great harmony. The lighting on the bass player, where I was sitting, was very odd. So the bass player had a shaved head and a very pale face, and there was a bright white light on their head. So it just looked like a skull. But the bass player had these great melodies, and what I really appreciate about this performance and all these performances is there's a looseness with the format of the song that allows for the instruments to sing, that allows for the performances to really ring out. And then he's able to do things like he took the third verse on this thing about the Corvette, and he just made it sultry. He just somehow made a verse which is just like any other verse on the studio version, but live he made it sultry. Next up was the song I was most looking forward to off the new album. Dawn the Struggle is the song I want to hear most, but I didn't hear it. And Atomized is cool because you realize the drummer is doing a lot. And I think a lot of what makes this band interesting in concert is how much the drummer is driving things, and he really makes everything jammy. It made me realize that this is like Government Mule is going to be playing at this venue later this week. And I realized Andrew Bird's actually a lot closer to Government Mule than he is to Iron and Wine in terms of his performance, in terms of like just being great embellishment. And like there's this thing where he's like whistling and playing violin at the same time and doing this solo. And again, it's that feeling that people can't do it. You know, if you saw my review of the Japanese Breakfast concert, it's the same thing. Like the way she would sing so loud with the microphone so far away from her face, like just people just can't do these things, and it's just really, really wonderful. There's this kind of like call and response with the chorus that you hear on the album. You know, every man in Ireland, but it's very effective because Andrew Bird backs off while they sing, and then comes back and says, "Here's what I say." And what's great about the "Here's What I Say" bit is at times he kind of messed up, like he came in too late. And the whole time, they are actually loose. Like their band is loose. Not sloppy, loose. And that kind of long jam in here, like the whistling and playing violin in total sync is such a neat trick. And it's like it totally goes away. And then they come back for one more chorus. And the funny thing is, this is my favorite song to sing around the house because I just... Stop blaming technology. not make an analogy. Oh, I love goofing around with this song. And he actually had the most fun with this last thing. He actually says, "Stop blaming technology." He actually says it the way I sing it when I'm making fun of it. The fourth track that he plays is the first one off of the previous album, my finest work yet, Bloodless. And it delivers on the promise of the studio version. So the studio version starts off as kind of a Riders on the Storm / jazzy opening, and they just open it up. They just have this very powerful harmonies, very open jams, very charismatic. It was at this point that the people around us, though, were starting to become problematic. So it's funny because we're sitting there, and my wife's very pregnant, so that's obviously drawing a lot of attention. But there's this I'm not going to call them a hippie family because they didn't look like hippies, but they acted like hippies in a bad way, like they were just getting high and drunk. And then they had all these kids. There was 4 kids. And I don't have a problem with people bringing kids, but I do have a problem with people bringing kids and then not giving them what they need. Not taking care of them. So I'm sitting there and I'm bloodless for Catalonia. I'm sitting, but I can't actually jam out because these kids are screaming at each other, and then they decide they're going to scare their parents by crawling behind the chairs, but that means that they're in our space. And so I'm I got the poster there and I got my wife. So I'm Catalonia, and I have to keep my eye. And it's one of the worst things that can happen when you're listening to a good jam band is when people are in your space. And I'm not saying, I know, we're all hippies and free. That's fine. But we're all trying to experience this music in a nice way. One of my favorite stories is I used to see the Grateful Dead a lot when I was in high school. I had these really great seats. I saw them 10th row at the Boston Garden. And, I was just sitting there. And then there was this very beautiful woman who started dancing, but just came into my seat and started dancing. And even though I was a single, desperate high schooler, I wanted her out because I was there for the music. Plus, she smelled like onion pizza. But I was there for the music, and I just asked her to leave. It doesn't matter how pretty you are. I need to hear this music and be there. So it's kind of this funny thing of, because obviously I'm not mad at the kids. Whatever, they're just at a concert. But they're doing all this, and then the parents are high and drunk. There's this one kid who's that tall, probably just learned how to walk, and he's just standing there crying and upset. And the mom takes him and puts him on her hip and then starts dancing in front of us. And the whole section, no one is standing up because it's the non-standing section, because we're at an Andrew Bird concert. We're not at a young person's concert. And then she's standing there, and it wouldn't bother me except that the kid just needs to sleep. Just let the kid sleep. Anyways, I told you there'd be a lot of anecdote here. Despite all that, the organ playing was great. They actually did a spotlight on the organist, and it's just great. You really feel that Andrew Bird loves his band, loves playing with his band. By the end of the song, there's just a full party in front of us. Just all these kids just running around. Fortunately, they ended up, after this song, moving... No, a couple songs later, they'd end up moving to the side and giving us space. So they ended up doing the right thing eventually. But, boy, that was just kind of a funny thing, because I don't want to be mad at a family, I'm never mad at a baby who cries on an airplane. And if you're the kind of person who gets mad at a baby crying on an airplane, then you're a bad person. You're a bad person. Look in the mirror and say, I am a bad person. Okay, just so you know. I don't come that strong with my moral opinions, but you're a bad person if you're upset at babies who cry on an airplane. You can be upset, but you can't be upset with the parents. You can't be upset with the baby. So I'm not saying that I'm mad, but just, this isn't your fabulous Freddie Freak Brothers concert time, man. Where your joy impinges upon others. That's the time for your joy to be curtailed. Anyways, then he switches to guitar, and this was a sad moment. Basically, the whole concert's great. Every part where Andrew Bird's playing is great. But when he put away the violin, it made me sad. But that's okay, because he played Sisyphus, another song off of my Dark Twisted Fantasy, my finest work yet. And it really made a real rocking song out of Sisyphus. And just the craziest whistling here. And I have a joke. I know Andrew Bird doesn't watch my videos. I can dream. Maybe someone in his management does. Can we do a series of... Can Andrew Bird sponsor and or produce crackers. How funny would it be to have Andrew Bird crackers, right? Because obviously Andrew Bird hasn't eaten a cracker in his entire life, because you can't whistle after you eat a saltine or a goldfish or whatever, right? Wouldn't it be funny to have a commercial with him, you know, and have him eat a cracker and just see Andrew Bird not able to whistle? Like, he just like makes the crackers and then donates all the money to some charity. I don't know what. But Andrew Bird crackers. Can we make this happen? And this is just a further reminder that just nobody does what he does. The whistling, great break, just totally wonderful. The hippie family ended up taking all of our space, though. Now the parents are standing behind their chairs in our space. So they're standing and we can't see anything. Next song is 8, which starts off with the craziest whistling on here. What's cool about 8 is that I don't... Like, that's not my favorite song off his new album, but the performance, it's very clearly a song to be performed. It just really takes this song and makes it better. And that's what a good performance will do. That's what a good concert will do. They'll make it better. Underlands, the opening track off the first album, is much more loose, much jazzier. A really strong guitar solo that goes along with these kind of conspicuous synthesizers, which appear on here much more noticeable than on their version. He keeps on saying, "I can't get over this moon," and it's cool because just over there's this beautiful crescent moon, just gorgeous, like a huge crescent moon. So it's very nice. Great interaction between the Hammond and his guitar work. And the cool thing is he's playing a small guitar, you know? I mean, not as small as Leroy. Not that small, but definitely somewhere in between these two guitars is the size of guitar that he's playing. Son of a... And I do think that matters because, you know, his skill is in smaller instruments. And they just came back for more jamming. Finally, the song "The Night Before Your Birthday" played. This is where I got up and like looked at the actual band. The main thing I was upset about was I was expecting this to be the jammy song, because this at the end of the song, I think it's just a Velvet Underground style song at the end, but they didn't actually like go loose on this song. And then the concert ended. No, it didn't end. But the Richard Gere guy came out. Iron and Wine came out. And it was just him and Andrew Bird. And this is the funny thing about Andrew Bird. My wife and I are the same way. The things that we love about Andrew Bird, like we love and want to listen to all the time. The things we don't like about Andrew Bird, we just don't want. You know that album he did before, the 13 songs or 13 things or whatever, the super down-home folksy thing? Just, nope. It's not bad. It's good music. We don't want to listen to it. So, you know, they get up and they start playing Just the Two of Us, and it's kind of like, oh, I guess, Bill Withers. Kind of, which is nice because, I mean, not Bill Withers. Wait, or is it? Anyways, Just the Two of Us. Well, it was. He didn't write Just the Two of Us, but he performed it. I believe that's the case. Feel free to tell me in the comments. But, you know, it's joking around. And they play, and it's nice. That great highlight. They did Left-Handed Kisses, where Andrew Bird sang Fiona Apple's original part. That's really cool. That was exciting. I was happy to see that. But it was the comedy hour was back. And this guy is so obnoxious. And again, he's a great songwriter with a great voice who's contributed more to society and life than I ever will. So I'm not saying that. But good gravy. I hate his stage presence so much, which was a blessing. Because the other thing is, if you ever, first of all, a thing you learn when you get older and going to concerts, you can never leave too early. You can't. Same thing with a museum, by the way. People think like when you go to a museum, you need to just see everything that's in the museum. There is such a thing as too much art. If you get too much art, you're just a water glass that's overfilled. You got to get to the right point. You know, like if this is the water glass, you want to get to there on a museum. You want to get to there on a concert. You don't want to be tired, blurred out. She's sitting there gestating human life, trying to get comfortable on a couple of lawn chairs. And it was a blessing that Iron and Wine ruined the end of the set. Because I'm sure there were other good songs, and I imagine that we would have loved seeing the end. But we were able to leave early, got into the car, no traffic, home by midnight. It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen in my entire life. And I only enjoyed 8 songs. But I enjoyed those 8 songs. I enjoyed the experience so much that it like really made me feel like I connected to something greater. And that's that feeling that you get when you watch a virtuoso. I'm going to use a big word right now, but I mean it. Hendrix. I missed seeing Hendrix because he died 7 years before I was born. But the thing that I'll never get to see is I can see it performed, like watching him play Killing Floor at Monterey. But actually seeing a virtuoso in concert, doing what they do that other people can't do, is one of the great things you can do at a concert. It's just you don't ever get to do that. So getting to see Andrew Bird playing while whistling and then singing with all these great songs and these great sounds, it was delightful. So there's my review. My next concert review might be My Chemical Romance, depending on how things go with... Alright, there's the camera.